Israeli voters are all set to head to the polls for an unprecedented third election within 1 year tomorrow. Now, tonight, our primetime focus features decoding the political crisis in Israel. We ask the burning question, can a third election in the space of 1 year break Israel's political deadlock? Candidates and campaign slogans remain largely unchanged. The ideological sticking points are rooted. Voting patterns are expected to remain consistent. There is no surety that a third election will break the political deadlock. The Israeli parliament has already failed to agree on a coalition after two previous elections that were held in April and September last year. And even before voting commences, the possibility of a fourth election looms large. Israel's leadership. The contest for the leadership comes 2 weeks ahead of incumbent Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's corruption trial. It is also playing out against the backdrop of US President Donald Trump's Middle East peace plan. In the two successive elections held last year, both Netanyahu and his principal opponent Benny Gantz of the Blue and White Party fell well short of the 61 seats required for an outright majority in Israel's 120-seat parliament. In April 2019, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu managed to hold on to power. Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party got 35 seats, but it did not win an outright majority of seats, as it was tied with Benny Gantz's Blue and White Party. However, the percentage of votes won by the Likud was 26.45% compared to the Blue and White, their share of 26.11%, which was marginally lower. In September, Gantz's centrist Blue and White alliance won 33 seats, while Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party got 32 seats. The run-up to Monday's parliamentary election feels as if nearly everyone involved in the race is still committed, despite the two previous inconclusive results. Candidates, campaigns, voters and the political media is staggering through the motions like the undead, doomed to repeat the process without an end. Now, we are being joined by Middle East analyst Mir Javedanfar, live from Tel Aviv, for more insight on this political turmoil in Israel. Now, Mir is an Iranian-born Israeli Middle East commentator. He has also co-authored the book called Nuclear Sphinx of Tehran. Now, Mir, welcome to WION. The first big question, third election within 1 year. Who has the edge, the experienced Netanyahu or Benny Gantz of the Blue and White Party?
Nobody knows. This is, again, as your report quite rightly said, we are staring into another $500 million abyss. Every time we go to the polls in Israel, it costs us $500 million, and we still cannot seem to find a leader. And this is the feeling that we are going into this next set of elections. The feeling is that we're going to have another deadlock. Of course, we could be surprised. Israeli politics has proven to be unpredictable before and will do so again. But for now, people are neither side wants to give up. The supporters of Mr. Netanyahu, despite the fact that he's, unlike the previous elections, he's now 3 indictments served against him, they still want him in office, and they're still going to go to the ballot boxes. And the anti-Netanyahu camp, which is basically the Blue and White coalition, the supporters are still adamant that Netanyahu must go, and they will turn up in force tomorrow as well.
Absolutely. Now, for our viewers, let's just quickly remind them that Netanyahu is Israel's longest-serving prime minister. Meanwhile, Gantz is a former chief of staff of the Israeli Defense Forces, so he also appears to have a lot of clout. Now, Mir, what are their stands on the Mideast peace plan? Because one imagines that that's going to feature a lot on the minds of the voters as they go out to cast their ballot. And what impact does the plan have on the upcoming polls?
Well, Mr. Netanyahu is talking about annexation of parts of the West Bank. Whereas Mr. Gantz is saying that no, we will not annex any land unless and until it has the agreement of the international community, namely the United States, which is backing the deal of the century. This is the main stance. Mr. Netanyahu's stance is one of unilateralism, going and annexing land, whereas Mr. Gantz believes that no, we should work with the international community. Both of them support the Mr. Trump's deal because, you know, as we learned during the Obama era, we shouldn't go against the President of the United States. But to be honest with you, sir, I really would dread to see what would happen if Mr. Netanyahu stays in power and Bernie Sanders is elected as president of the U.S. because their worldview differs so greatly that we will be in for very tumultuous times in Israeli-American relations.
Benjamin Netanyahu is battling literally for his political survival, like many analysts believe. The leader of the Likud party, who had been virtually unchallenged politically for more than a decade, appears to have met his match this time. The difference is that Benjamin Netanyahu is now an indicted leader. He has been charged with fraud, bribery and breach of trust. Will these implications have an impact on the polls?
It seems that no. It's amazing, isn't it? It seems that no. His supporters are staying with Netanyahu because as far as they are concerned, life under Netanyahu has gone better for them. And to be honest with you, Netanyahu's diplomatic achievements have been amazing. I mean, not only he's very close to Mr. Trump, he's very close to Putin. And he's also improved our relations with India immeasurably. The visit by Mr. Modi to Israel was the most amazing visit by a world leader who was not American. So Netanyahu points to these diplomatic achievements. He points to the Israeli economy, which has grown under his term. And he has got support. And these people say, look, so what? He's got 3 indictments. Life for me and for my children and for the economy of Israel is better. Diplomatically, we are, in fact, doing better. So Netanyahu should still remain in charge. And it seems that those have basically bulletproofed him against any possible consequences of 3 indictments against him.
So, I mean, if you had to, literally take a stand, since you, very follow Israeli politics very closely, keen, Mideast observer. So, if you had to, literally put your name down to one candidate, who would it be, Netanyahu or his political rival? And is there a real possibility of a 4th election as well?
First and foremost, there is a possibility of a 4th election, unfortunately. Second of all, everybody's view is respected. My view is just one view, and it's just my personal view. I would vote Mr. Gantz. I would not vote Mr. Netanyahu. I think Netanyahu has had some successes, undeniably, but I don't think any leader, anybody in Israel should stand for elections. It doesn't matter if they represent the left or the right. And if they have 3 indictments, I don't think anybody who's got 3 indictments is fit to stand for office. This is just my opinion, and this is one of the main reasons why I will be voting for Mr. Gantz.
Right, Mir Javed Anfar, I'd like to thank you for so much joining on WION and sharing your insight on the upcoming Israeli elections.